So in this video we're going to expand upon the first prototype we made in the previous video, and to recap the idea, I basically want to create an app to very quickly visualize numbered data. So in my case it was data from a workout session from 6 weeks, so I want to be able to quickly visualize my progress over time. In the previous video we built out the foundation so that we can actually use it, and now from using it for a day, I realized some features that I would want to add just to make it a little bit nicer to use the app. So first thing is that when you show this chart, it can sometimes be a bit much if all the axes are there as well, so the X and the Y axis. So we want to clean that up. But because the data detail view is getting a bit busy, I decided to first split it up into different sections. That just makes it easier to see what part of the code you need to work with, and it cleans it up a little bit. And at this point it becomes useful to do that. So to the model I added a new thing called show axis, which I now have to use everywhere in the app. Having some trouble here trying to find where to put it. It needs to be on the left side. Yes, there you go. And basically there's just going to be a toggle, and then based on that it will show or hide the legends. And I had a bit of trouble trying to figure out exactly what the code for it was. So I look into the Swift chart examples app and basically just copy some of the code that was used there. So you have this chart X scale and you have the chart X axis. So that's the one we took, but I couldn't figure it out initially, so I did some Googling. I sometimes still feel that the Swift charts API is a bit vague. It's not very intuitive. Like what's an axis tick, what's an axis grid line, but that might just be a language barrier. But anyway, so I go to the visual chart and add this chart x-axis thing to just remove it basically. So I start by trying to figure out what's the end goal, and the end goal is just give user the option to remove it. So here I just do a little test to see, okay, if I just give an empty one, what happens then? And as you can see, it works. The x-axis is now hidden, so now we can do something like also hide the y-axis, but then I realized, oh, that would mean that I have to have two toggles, and it might be a bit busy, and I think you would always want to have the y-axis. So basically what we say now is, if the user has the feature turned on, then we show an axis, and otherwise we don't. Trying out some stuff, but in the end I just need to get rid of all of this because it doesn't really matter. And you can see here that the time notation is not great. It's like hour, minute, PM. We don't need all that stuff. You would obviously want to show it per day or something. I could now spend some time trying to figure out how to do the legend per day, but that's not important for now. For now it's important that that feature is there or it's not there. I can spend more time in the next version to actually change this, and it could also be because I'm working with test data where I add multiple pieces of information in just seconds, so maybe that makes it hard or / impossible to show it. So this is definitely an edge case that you don't want to work with. So I add a little toggle to the data detail view, and because it's only showing the x-axis, I cleared up the names a little bit just so it's clear what I'm talking about. But yeah, then it basically works. The next thing is that we want to be able to distinguish the different visuals. So we had a simple color picker to let people change the color of their individual visual. Super simple fix, and it really makes a really big difference, especially once you have multiple charts, and it makes it easier to distinguish them. So what happens here is that color by default is not able to be persisted to user defaults. So I took some extension code I made before to actually decode it. But the problem is that this also depends on some other color stuff. So some other extension that's not in here. So what I have to do is also clean up the project a little bit by putting all the extensions in one thing, in one group. And now the self.color components I also need, so I'm just going through my browser or my clipboard history to figure out where that code is. Found it, and now it works. So initially we give it an indigo color, but users can now change the color of their charts, which is actually quite a nice feature if I say so myself. You can see here, put in some data and then just change the chart color. And because the model changes, that's why the data resets between launches. But you can see now that we actually use line color, and then when we restart the app, you can see now it's red and now it's blue. But from here I also noticed it would actually be nice to have that visual chart on the data detail view. So because it's a separate Swift UI view, we can just very quickly add it in, and that way we can give users a preview on the data detail view. So this is another example of something that's like, when you're designing this, when you're building this, that's when you figure out, oh, what kind of stuff do I need to have on here? And you don't have to think about all this stuff beforehand, because it's so easy to just change it around. And especially when you keep it small like this, it's really easy to be focused and just fix stuff. So in this part I kind of get stuck for a bit, because I want to give the users the option to change the height of the y-axis. So basically to determine the range that chart goes through. This ends up not going anywhere because I can't really figure out the best way to do this. So I'm just gonna quickly fast forward through this. So basically what I wanted to do was just make an input for the minimum y and for the maximum y. Went through some examples, but couldn't find a super clear example. So I spent a bunch of time trying to get it to work, but it just ended up giving me strange results. So I just decided to scrap it for now. Can always come back to it later. So what I wanted to do now is actually make it a little bit easier to input data from the main view. Because when you're on the main page, now you have to go into the all detail page, and then that's where you can add the data. So it would be nice to be able to do that directly from the main screen. So in this initial version, what I do is just reuse a bunch of code from the sheet that I have for creating a new visual. I'm actually going to copy the exact code and visual cell. So I'm going to clean up the code a little bit now, because this is code that's reliant on the individual visual that the user has selected. So create a visual cell, just put all the stuff in there, and now show add data. I can actually make it relate to the visual that the user has selected. So this is going to pop up an extra bottom sheet, and that bottom sheet will have an input. But now that I'm looking at it, I think it would have just been nicer to have a text field directly underneath the chart, so you can just very quickly type it in, press submit, and it would be added. But that will be an easy fix because all of the hard code is already made. So I went to create a new visual sheet and just create a new one, clean it up a little bit, put it in a separate file so it's easier to work with. Remove the preview because it was giving me some errors, and make a new add data point sheet, which starts from the create new visual sheet, and from here on it's easy to make some changes. So mostly just need to make sure there's an input field here that's actually linked to the visual. So right now the data point sheet doesn't have any reference to the visual, so we took the code from the data detail view and put it in the add data point sheet. I'm adding a preview here so that it's easy for me to actually see what it looks like. But I need to import defaults and just clean up the code a little bit. So going to the data detail view, just copying some code from there. So basically copying the entire functionality from adding a data point to just to reuse this stuff. And again, it doesn't need to look nice. It just needs to work and gets you one step closer to having a better app. All of these things inform you of, okay, how does this work? Oh, maybe I should do it in a different way. And so what you can do now is add data. Like, doesn't look nice. The text field is all the way on the left side, but it doesn't really matter for now. As you can see, it's like very easy now to add data for me, and yeah, added some huge numbers, clean it up a little bit, and now I can just add data from the home screen. So now it's just a matter of removing that frame width. Right now it's only 50 frames wide because it was under a trailing side in the initial thing. But yeah, basically this is a simple enough way to do it. And obviously it doesn't look nice. As you can see, there's a lot of gray space, but you can fix all that stuff later because it will always pop up a keyboard in any way. So these are things that are also hard to determine what they look like on the simulator because you don't have the on-screen keyboard. Here I was thinking, oh, I need a save button, but then I actually realized, no, I don't, because I can just do on submit and then just dismiss it, because we can imagine that people want to add one data point at a time. There's some stuff with the text fields that should be cleaner, but I guess for now, oh yeah, so there's one small thing actually to make the input focused as soon as it appears. And this way, when the user clicks on add new data point, it just immediately puts the focus there so users can type and quickly submit. So with another 25 minutes gone, the app is already a lot more functional. It's quicker to use, and people can now change different colors, can put in data without going to the data detail screen, and customize it a lot more. So it already becomes more useful. So in the next step, we're going to do some more polishing and actually make a version that we can send to people. So the test flight will be out after the next video. If you like this video, you can subscribe to stay up to date on new videos. I plan to release these every time I work on this app and basically take you through the entire process. Let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions or would want me to go deeper into certain things, or if you have any feature suggestions for the app so I can make it better. All right, thanks.